Hello, and welcome to Pop Culture Pie. I'm Colleen.
And I'm Shannon. What are you drinking, sissy?
I am drinking Bailey's. What about you?
I am eating an M&M McFlurry.
Well, that sounds good. And you know what would make it even better?
Bailey's?
Yeah.
That would probably be good. Bailey's and a McFlurry.
It would be.
So this is our new podcast.
Yeah.
The new podcast from Remarkable Singular Curious Productions. The first podcast, the only podcast.
Yeah.
What we should probably say what else Remarkable Singular Curious Productions is, in case this is the first thing that someone stumbles across. We previously, mostly me, made the web series The Adventures of Jamie Watson and Sherlock Holmes. But you helped.
I was in it.
Yeah. And you kind of came up with the idea of it.
I did come up with the idea of it.
See, it balances out because I came up with the idea of this podcast.
It's true.
But this podcast, I think, will be a little bit more of a collaborative effort between the two of us.
True. Though I did come up with an episode for
yes,
the Sherlock Holmes show. And
yeah, I mean, you came up with a lot. You came up with a lot of character names.
I did. I didn't watch it or anything, but
yeah.
You know.
It's okay. Other people did. Other people liked it. So
That's what mattered. It didn't really matter if I watched it.
Yeah. You have like executive producer credit on it, but
so what do I need to watch it for?
So this is our podcast, Pop Culture Pie, and
it will not be about pie.
No, it might not actually always be about pop culture.
True,
but mostly. So in this podcast, the idea is each episode, one of us picks a topic, but the other one doesn't know what the topic is until we're recording. Except for this episode, we both know what the topic is, but we've both picked different things to talk about for the topic that we don't know. The other person doesn't know.
Today's topic is sisters, because we are sisters.
Spoiler alert.
So we thought that would be a good introductory topic because Shannon and I are sisters and we don't live near each other and we talk on the phone a lot and we tend to talk about TV shows and books and stuff and ramble on.
Yeah.
So we might as well share our ramblings with the world.
Figured we might as well get famous doing it.
That is the goal.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
We've both picked two pairs of sisters. Fictional sisters. But you don't know which two I've picked, and I don't know which two you've picked. And hopefully we haven't picked the same two.
Although knowing us, we could have.
Yeah, I tried to pick two that I thought you wouldn't pick, but I don't know. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I was going to start.
Okay.
I was going to start by saying, Shannon, today we are serving a slice of sisters.
That sounds a little weird, but...
A piece of sisterhood, better. Okay, today
there we go.
We're serving a slice of sisterhood.
Perfect.
Great. So the sisters I have chosen are Anna and Elsa from Frozen.
Wow, I would have never guessed.
And Buffy and Dawn from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Okay. I knew you were going to pick Anna and Elsa. I didn't know which other ones. That's a good one.
Yeah, I figured you'd know that I would pick Anna and Elsa.
Yeah. Because when you decided the first topic should be sisters, you said you had two sisters in mind. So I've been spending a couple weeks being like, what two sisters? Pairs of sisters.
Well, obviously, Anna and Elsa, which is where I'm going to start.
Yes, go for it.
So when Shannon and I saw Frozen in the theater, we go see movies at Thanksgiving time with our extended family. And we were there, and I was sitting in between Shannon and my husband. I'm older. I don't know if that should be a surprise, or by the way I'm sharing it, that I'm older. Shannon and I are 6 years apart.
Yeah. You're drinking Bailey's, and I'm eating a McFlurry. That just seems like, can see the age there.
It's true. It's a good point. So, you know, you're watching the movie, and they're sisters and whatever. And so at the very end, when spoiler, Anna sacrifices herself, and the act of true love is her sacrificing herself for Elsa, I like squealed and grabbed Shannon, and I was like, the true love is sisters. It's sisters. And my husband was disappointed because that meant I stopped holding his hand and paying any attention to him, and all my focus went to Shannon,
as it
often
should
happens. And I was really excited because that wasn't something I had really you'd never seen that before. That the act of true love was an act that was not romantic. Although now that I think about it, I can think of other examples. Because they do that on Once Upon a Time all the time. They're always kissing Henry, and Henry's kissing his mom, and But anyways, sisters.
Yeah, it was sisters. It wasn't
because
familial.
And she even thought, Anna thought that it was true love's kiss. That's what I got to go do.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was really exciting that it was like the true love was her love for Elsa, which was a driving point of the whole movie. And one thing I really liked in this article that I read, it talked about how all three of Disney's most commercially successful films, Finding Nemo, The Lion King, and Frozen, are all about family, not romance.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about that before. And
I never thought about those three being the most commercially successful.
Yeah. I knew The Lion King was
before
Frozen. And then I guess Finding Nemo is very popular.
Yeah.
It's a good movie. And
I've seen people bring up, because people will say, Frozen is the first Disney movie about, sisters. And I've seen people be like, Lilo and Stitch. And I'm like, Lilo and Stitch is about sisters. But I think it's more overall about the idea of family, whereas Frozen is about sisters.
It's true.
And about sisters in a different way. True.
Yeah, because in Lilo and Stitch, it's about family and sort of finding what your family is. The defining of Ohana and how their family, which is just the two sisters, comes to include Stitch and, David and the other aliens and Cobra Bubbles. And then they have, a spin-off and TV shows and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas with Frozen, it's really about the relationship between these two sisters and the lengths to which they will go for each other, because Elsa changes her whole life because she hurts Anna, and then Anna is willing to go to extraordinary lengths to get Elsa back. And Elsa uses her powers to impress, Anna in the beginning, because Anna thinks it's cool, and she's very that little sister, wake up, let's go play. And then when Anna's powers are revealed to the world, or when Elsa's powers are revealed to the world, Anna isn't afraid. She isn't
she's concerned.
She's concerned. She's worried. She's like, I've upset her, It's that sort of, it makes me think of people say, I can be mean to my sibling, but you can't.
Yeah.
Anna's mean to Elsa. She says, all you know is to shut people out. But she defends her immediately. She's scared. She didn't mean to do any of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I liked this article also mentioned Olaf. And I have this whole thought about Olaf, and we've talked about this in the past, how, Hans has this plan, and he changes his plan all the time, and really the whole world is working for him almost the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Anna and Elsa just keep playing into his hands, and he is foiled by the existence of Olaf, because Olaf gets Anna out of the locked room. And without that magic snowman, he would have killed Elsa. Anna would have died. He would have won. And this article mentions that Olaf is a symbol of Anna and Elsa's relationship.
Yeah.
You know, they build him in the beginning. When Elsa hits Anna with her powers, Olaf crumbles. You know, building a snowman together is Anna's epitome of, you know, let's do this together. And, you know, Olaf exists again later. And then so it's Olaf that saves Anna and foils Hans's plans. So you can really say it's their, you know, love.
Yeah, because Olaf saves her, but, like, Elsa made Olaf.
Yeah.
So she instilled in him the love for Anna.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and I really like in Frozen that it is this story of sisters. And like I said, the symbol of sisterly true love. You know, Anna deciding to sacrifice herself for Elsa over her own good, like over having Kristoff save her. She's like, no, I have to save Elsa, not knowing that will save her, but, you know, just I need to save her because that's what I need to do. She's my sister and I love her more than anything else.
Well, and it's great that, like, and I guess this is kind of a difference from Once Upon a Time is, like, the Anna performs the act of true love that saves herself.
Yeah.
Anna loved her sister so much, and that saved her, whereas, like, in Once Upon a Time, you know, it's Emma kisses Henry on the forehead. Henry's the one in danger, so it's her true love for Henry, which is great and all, but, like, it's nice that Anna got to save herself with her love for her sister.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And in that theme of sacrifice, that can move us over into Buffy and Dawn.
I'm so glad you picked Buffy and Dawn.
Because, as we know, at season 5, which was supposed to be the series finale, Buffy sacrifices herself to save not only Dawn, but the whole world.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's, Dawn's blood can close this portal. And Dawn people hate Dawn.
I know.
But Dawn is willing to jump into that hole to save the world.
Well, you know, it's interesting people hate Dawn, and I understand why. It's because she, like, appeared out of nowhere, and then, like, she was a whiny child, like children are.
Yeah, because she's a teenager and her life sucks.
Yeah, and that's like, I mean, I didn't really watch Buffy when it was on, but I remember you watching Buffy, and I remember that I loved Dawn, probably because I was a child. I don't even think it was just because, like, she was the little sister and I was the little sister, but I remember that I liked Dawn. And then it was like, everybody hates Dawn, and I'm like, why?
It's because once you get older, you forget how annoying you were at 14.
Well, it's almost like when people, like, hate Jar Jar Binks. I mean, it's not the same, but, like, but kids like Jar Jar Binks, and that was the point of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah.
And, you know, adults hated the Ewoks, but kids liked the Ewoks, and that was the point.
Yeah, yeah.
Dawn was a child.
Point. Yeah, Dawn's a teenager, and her sister's a superhero.
Yeah.
You know, you already have, theoretically, I'm not a younger sibling, but I've read about this, that, you know, you already look up to, you admire and are jealous of your older sibling.
Yeah, you're okay.
Thanks. So Dawn has that, but it's amplified because her older sister is a superhero.
Yeah. And then Dawn finds out that she's not, like, a real person.
Yeah, she's not a real person. And then her mom dies.
Yeah, it's a lot at once.
And theoretically, you don't think about this, but, like, all the bad stuff that has happened to Buffy over the past 4 years all happened to Dawn.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you don't think about that, but I read on Wikipedia, there are comics about, like, pre-Dawn that talk about how reality changed with Dawn's existence.
That's cool.
And so things like, Angelus kidnapped Dawn instead of Willow.
Mm.
You know, things like that, like, things happen to her instead of theoretically having happened to other people or happened concurrently with, oh, my mom's kidnapped and I'm kidnapped too. Like, her parents got divorced. Her sister burned down a school. Like, her life is really hard. And then her sister's a superhero and she's trying to find her own identity to, then just find out she's not a real person.
Yeah.
And so I think everyone needs to cut Dawn some slack.
You were at the Leaky Con, right? Where we went to, like, the Once More with Feelings sing-along?
Yeah.
And I screamed at people?
Yeah, because every time Dawn came on, people booed.
Yeah, and then I screamed, shut up, and then they stopped.
Yeah.
And I remember everyone was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. I just was really frustrated. I remember...
Well, it was also because we're trying to watch this.
Yeah.
And you're interrupting.
And people are just booing Dawn.
So
and I remember getting really angry because Dawn, like, tells... I forget, like, what... Does the bad guy have a name in that? I forget what his name is.
Sweet.
Yeah. She tells him that, like, oh, my sister's the Slayer. Like, accidentally. And I remember people being like, Dawn, like, she ruined it. And I'm like, but actually, though, Buffy couldn't find this guy until Dawn told him, hey, my sister's the Slayer, and then he went to seek out Buffy. So if Dawn hadn't said that, the whole town would have been destroyed by dancing. So thanks, Dawn. Anyway.
Yeah. But anyway, sisters. But so, you really see a very realistic, as even though Buffy's a superhero and Dawn's not real, you see a very realistic portrayal of sisters. They fight.
Yeah.
But they're not like rivals. Like you see that in things a lot. The sisters are rivals. They're not rivals. They're just, she's a big sister, she's a little sister. You are introduced to Dawn, and the very next moment, the mom's like, take Dawn to the movies, and they're like, Mom.
Yeah.
That's your introduction to Dawn. And yes, Dawn shows up out of nowhere, but it's, Joss Whedon likes to take gimmicks and like turn them on their head. He was praised for the dialogue for Buffy, so then he wrote an episode where nobody talks.
Yeah.
And so there are, characters do show up in TV shows and people act as though they have always existed. And I remember watching it and Dawn showing up and you just thinking that it was like they're just acting as though Dawn always existed, like you just wrote this character in, but then it's, oh no, that's the plot, is that everyone thinks Dawn always existed, but she didn't. And so even though she's not real, even though Dawn has an identity crisis when she finds out she's not real, and Buffy goes to her and is like, you're my sister no matter what, and I love you. And, at the end, she isn't going to let Dawn, die. She's going to do whatever she has to do to save Dawn and save the world, because that's her destiny. And now it's like her duties as a sister and her duties as the Slayer are one and the same. And so it's like, I'm going to dive into this hole because I'm not going to let Dawn do it because she's my little sister and I'm not going to let anything happen to her.
They're good.
Yeah. And I do think, people give Dawn a hard time. And part of it's because, she's annoying and she gets on Buffy's nerves. And I
think I remember reading that, like, when he originally conceived of Dawn, she was supposed to be a little bit younger. So in, like, her first episode, she's, like, even more annoying because she's acting younger than she is or something like that. But then after they casted, they, like, aged her up. But still.
Well, and then you have to think, too, that Buffy was supposed to end.
Yeah.
Like, season 5 was supposed to be the end of Buffy. Joss Whedon planned that as the end. Buffy is supposed to die, and that how it ends. So then you go into the next 2 seasons with no plan of what is supposed to happen to Dawn.
Yeah.
You had the past 5 years, or maybe less, depending on the character, but you developed all these other characters, and Dawn just didn't get developed to the same extent because there was less time, and you had these big stories to tell. And so Dawn was just kind of a whiny teenager who slowly grows into her own.
But she didn't have as much time, yeah.
Yeah, she didn't have as much time to be developed, and there were so many characters, she's not getting to have personal journeys the way that the other characters had already had and no longer needed.
Mm-hmm.
But, you get into season 6, more horrible things happen. So Dawn's the first person after Willow who finds Tara's dead body. Life is hard. Then in the comics, Dawn turns into a centaur. I know this because I read it. I read it on Wikipedia, not because I've read the comics.
Okay. I picked different kinds of sisters.
Okay.
So I figured you'd pick sisters who, really got along.
I mean, Dawn and Buffy don't really get along.
Well, yeah, but they get along, as much as real sisters do.
Yes.
It's a full, well-rounded relationship.
Yes, I think that's very true with Dawn and Buffy. They have a very well-rounded,
Yeah.
Even if in the weird world they live in, they have a very well-rounded sisterly relationship.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't like each other when, you were a teenager.
I didn't like you till you were, 12.
Yeah.
And that was really out of desperation because I didn't have any friends.
Yeah. But, by then, you were, 18. You were, more of an adult. So I think it was probably a little bit easier for you to put up with me. Not that I bothered you that much.
You had become less annoying.
Yeah. I stopped bothering you, and then you were like, wait, pay attention to me.
Yeah, I like to joke, when we were little, Shannon would come to my room and be like, Sissy, pay attention to me, Sissy, pay attention to me. And I'm like, no, go away. And I'd pull out a fake spider to scare her away. And then I would get in trouble. And then I went off to college and I would come home and go to Shannon's room and be like, Shannon, pay attention to me. And she's like, no, I'm busy.
Yeah.
She didn't have fake spiders, but
no, I don't know what I used to scare you away.
I don't know, because I don't think if you'd pulled out a fake snake, I would have had the same reaction as you had to that fake spider. Okay,
so my first pair of sisters I chose are Petunia and Lily Evans. So
that was a good one.
Yeah. I didn't write a lot of notes. You looked up articles. I didn't do that. But I think they're interesting because they're almost the opposite of Buffy and Dawn. Because, Lily's the younger one, and then she has magic powers. And actually, it's kind of, if you think about it, that scene where they're young and, Lily makes the flower, it's kind of like Anna and Elsa, where it's look at my magic powers. We're having fun. Then, yeah, it's just interesting because, Petunia's the older sister, and then she gets jealous of the younger sister.
Which is a thing.
Yeah, especially because, oh, my younger sister is, cooler than me. That's not supposed to be how it works. She's supposed to look up to me. Which Lily definitely does look up to Petunia. But I don't think Petunia really, realizes that.
No.
Because then Lily goes away.
Yeah.
And Petunia, wants to be a witch. Obviously, who doesn't?
Yeah.
And she writes to Dumbledore. Doesn't work out because she's not a witch, so she can't go to Hogwarts. And then, Snape is also there, but he doesn't matter. But yeah, and then Lily dies. And by that point, they've grown so far apart. It's yeah. I don't have a full sentence there.
But at the same time, Harry says something towards the end.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I never thought before. I don't remember what Petunia says. But
she's like, you lost your parents, I lost a sister.
Yeah, and he says how he never really thought about it that way before.
Yeah, and I think it's because Petunia and Lily had grown so far apart that I think it was easy, at least for Vernon, to kind of act oh, you never had a sister, because they didn't really talk about her and stuff. But I think, it really affected Petunia, but she didn't want to show it because, it's supposed to be my weird sister that we don't talk about.
Yeah. And it was just another reason to be, instead of being sad, I'm sure she just fueled it into anger.
Yeah.
Like, it just, you know, she says something, my stupid sister went and got herself blown up, you know. It's just she was weird, and she had those stupid powers, and she died because of them.
Yeah.
You know, it's all her fault.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting that, like, you picked Buffy and Dawn and Anna and Elsa, who both have, you know, there's a powerful sister. And then Petunia and Lily, it's like there's a powerful sister, but their relationship develops in the opposite way.
That's true. And both of my powerful sisters were the older sister.
Yeah. But, like, it's, you know, I wonder how it would have been different if Lily didn't have to go away to go to Hogwarts, you know?
That's true. If they had still grown up together, and then it wouldn't
Yeah.
have been as easy for Petunia to just ignore her.
Yeah. Because then they'd still be growing up together. And there'd still be that jealousy, but like we talked about, you know, Dawn's jealous of Buffy. I guess Anna's not jealous of Elsa, but...
Anna has her memories erased, and so...
Yeah.
She doesn't know.
And then, like, you know, once Elsa shows her powers, it's not exactly a good thing, so... So yeah, like, if they had grown up together, if they had still lived together, they probably still would have been friends. If Snape didn't exist either, but...
Stupid Snape.
Yeah.
Ruining everything.
Boys. Ugh. Well, you know, I think they're interesting because... I mean, the Weasleys are, like, siblings in the Potter world, obviously. But there's not a lot of, like, siblings. And even the Weasleys, it's not so much... It's different because there's so many of them.
Yeah.
It's not, like, a single really close... I mean, obviously Fred and George are really close. But they're not, like, the super main characters.
Yeah.
But so it's kind of like you end up with Petunia and Lily as, like, the biggest example of, like, two close siblings. And then they grew apart. Almost, well, I guess it's kind of parallel to Regulus and Sirius. But this isn't about brothers, it's about sisters. No. Anyway, I picked other sisters.
Okay.
So, because I saw Guardians of the Galaxy 2 yesterday. Have you seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2?
I have.
That's what I thought. Gamora and Nebula.
This is interesting because they're not blood sisters, too.
Yeah.
Different relationship.
So, spoiler alert for Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Which you should go see if you haven't.
Yeah, it's really good. Just like the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Gamora and Nebula were raised by Thanos, you know, their quote-unquote father.
Who's evil.
Mm-hmm. Kind of the big bad of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which is interesting because, like, he's not, like, the big bad of Guardians of the Galaxy.
No.
He's kind of a bigger bad for the Avengers, but then, like, Gamora and Nebula. But yeah, so they were raised by him. They were, like, kidnapped from their original families, right?
Well, I think he kills their families and takes them and raises them, but they hate him.
Yeah, and each other.
And each other, because he makes, as explained in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, he makes them fight each other.
Well, and here, look, we have another example of jealous sisters.
Yeah.
Because
it's just a theme.
Gamora always wins the fights. And then, this is very different, though, because it's not necessarily that... I mean, I guess it is that Gamora is more, like, physically powerful, but... but it's more... that, as Nebula eventually says, like, Gamora always wanted to win the fight, but Nebula just wanted a sister.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Nebula got punished for losing the fight, so, like, that would mess up the relationship.
And that made her hate Gamora more.
Yeah. The second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, spoiler alert, is about family. Like, a lot. And about, like, found family. So I like that it then connects to, even though Gamora and Nebula are sisters and were raised together, they're not blood relatives. So the whole movie is about, like, people who aren't blood relatives but are still family.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they just spend the whole movie trying to kill each other, and then they don't, and it's which is good. But it's interesting because, like, at the end, Gamora kind of apologizes. They kind of have their heart-to-heart, but Nebula's still like, whatever, and leaves.
Yeah, she's still not sappy, as she would probably say Gamora is.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, I don't think they can ever be, like, best friends who hang out together all the time. Like, Nebula could never join the Guardians of the Galaxy and just be with them.
No.
There's too much animosity at this point. They've tried to kill each other too much.
Yeah, like, even if you, theoretically, she's like, okay, I forgive Gamora, like, they were raised to compete against each other.
Yeah.
And that would never go completely away. You know, Nebula would always be trying to prove herself better.
Yeah. So they've reached an understanding, but now they're not gonna... I don't think they're gonna try to kill each other anymore.
That's a good step.
Yeah.
When I read something that suggested that because, spoiler alert, Nebula leaves to go and kill Thanos.
That's right.
It will probably be Nebula who will alert the Guardians of the Galaxy to Thanos' presence on Earth.
That's a good point.
So that they can come and join the final, maybe probably not the final two Avengers movies, but the next two Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know what's interesting about Guardians? This doesn't have to do with sisters. This is just
That's fine.
I thought was interesting. Is that Guardians of the Galaxy 2 is supposed to only take place like a couple months after Guardians of the Galaxy 1.
Oh.
Which means it's still taking place in like 2014. Which is different. You know, all the other movies really sort of like they happen in sequence.
Yeah. Yeah, because I guess I didn't think about how much time has passed.
Yeah, I read that somewhere.
But that makes sense because Groot's a baby.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah, so it's like he hasn't grown that much. Baby Groot is the best part of the whole movie.
Oh my god, yeah.
I'm like, I just want to go watch it again.
Yes. Sarah and I kept being like, Gamora and Peter are mom and dad. And then at the end of the movie, it was like, oh, that was the point. Yeah. It wasn't just a joke, like, oh, they're like the parents now. The point was father-son relationships mostly. Mm-hmm. But, man, I went into that movie being like, Yondu's gonna be, like, part of the Guardians, I guess so, but I don't think I'm gonna care about him. And then I did.
And then you did.
And, like, rude.
They did a great job, which Marvel does this sometimes.
Yeah.
Setting up false bad guys.
Yeah.
Because you think about, there's a lot of lines in the trailer that don't exist in the movie.
Yeah.
Everything that gold lady says in the trailer doesn't exist in the movie. Because while she would be an adversary in some way, she's not the main bad guy. And they set it up in the trailer to be that, like, they're trying to destroy the galaxy. And they're not. They're just trying to destroy the main characters.
Yeah.
For, like, legit reasons.
Yeah.
So, but they set up, and Marvel does this, they set up someone that you think is, like, the main bad guy, and then they're really not.
Yeah.
In the end.
Well, and that's like, I had seen the clip, I think it played during, like, an Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episode, where his dad first shows up. Mm-hmm. And I didn't realize that was so soon into the movie.
Yeah. Because you
that's
didn't
like,
think so much of the movie would be about.
But that's what the whole movie is about.
The whole movie is about.
Yeah.
Really.
And then, like, I mean, once they're like, we're not sure about this, I'm like, okay, well, the dad is gonna be evil. Just don't know how yet. Man, that whole reveal.
Yeah.
Because I was like, okay, he's gonna be evil, but how is he gonna be evil? And then just kept saying things, and it was like, oh, man.
Yeah.
Why'd he
Man,
gotta be that way?
the moment when he said the thing, it was like, oh my god, Peter's gonna be so mad at you.
And then he was.
And he was.
And then he just, spoiler alert, he just shot him.
Yeah.
I mean, it didn't work, but I was saying to Sarah earlier, I was like, I appreciated that Peter had no hesitation.
He just
was just, up until that point, it was like, this is my dad. I love my dad. I finally have a dad. And then it was like, nope, never mind.
Nope, I'm shooting him. He
Yep.
deserves it.
And I was like, yeah, yes. But I didn't expect the whole, like, Yaldu was really my dad. Like, it wasn't what I expected out of the movie at all.
No. But I was glad to finally know what it was Yondu said about Mary Poppins, because I kept seeing that everywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? I was like, obviously he does something. And Peter's like, you look like Mary Poppins. And he's like, was he cool? Yeah, it was cool. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Because, like, I finally saw someone had written out that exchange. And I'm like, what does he do that makes him like Mary Poppins? But he just kept I saw pictures of, what is the actor's name? Michael Rourke?
Yes. No.
Right. No.
Something like that. I don't think it's Rourke. I think it's like Rooker.
Yeah, Michael Rooker?
Yeah. I'll double check. You tell the story.
Okay. I saw a picture of him, I think maybe at some premiere, like he went to Disneyland, and he took a picture with Mary Poppins. And things like that I really appreciate when, like, actors, you know, take that extra step to be silly.
Yeah, Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker. I was close. This episode about sisters evolved into Guardians to the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy is really good.
It is. And, you know, I knew that, like, after the first movie that, like, obviously Nebula and Gamora's whole thing was not resolved and would come back in the second movie. But it was nice that, like, it came back in the second movie. Well, and it was nice that it came back immediately. Like,
yeah,
they immediately get Nebula. And then it's like, it wasn't too removed from the main storyline. I mean, the whole movie was about family. So I didn't feel like, oh, this is kind of a whole separate storyline that is just in there because it needs to be in there. Like, it connected. And what Nebula did was really, you know, advance the plot because she was messing everything up.
Somebody's
so, yeah, it was nice.
Mess everything up.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah, well, I probably wouldn't have thought of it, except I saw the movie yesterday.
What are some other sisters off the top of your head?
Okay.
Obviously, we mentioned Lilo and Nani.
Well, Tina and Queenie in Fantastic Beasts.
That's true. Tina
Go listen to the other podcast I'm on, Speak Beastie, about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Let's see. In, like, Disney movies, the only other sisters I can think of are, like, Ariel and her sisters, but...
Yeah, which really don't matter.
Her sisters are just in, like, 2 scenes.
Yeah. What sisters that aren't, like, jealous of each other? I mean, Tina and Queenie aren't.
No.
Lilo and Nani aren't, but they're very far apart in age.
Yeah, they're really far apart. Nani really has taken over, you know, being the mother and...
Yeah.
And, you know, that's an interesting relationship, too, because you have, you know, Nani has got to be mother to Lilo.
Yeah, and it's nice that, like, but that she's not. She's not a mom.
Yeah.
Because she's not a mom.
She's not doing a great job of it. Like, you see them, you know, struggle because she has had to change the whole way her life is, you know, which you see in a way with Buffy and Dawn, too, because when the mom dies, you know, Buffy has to take over and take care of things and not go to school and, you know, get a job and everything because she has to pay the bills and take care of John. And
well, you know, and Tina and Queenie kind of talk about that a little bit, but they are closer in age. I forget how far apart they're supposed to be, but it's more taking care of each other.
Yeah, the mutual taking care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I thought of other sisters from Harry Potter would be Narcissa and Bellatrix.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
And Andromeda. Isn't Andromeda their sister? Who you never meet, but you hear of. Andromeda is Tonks's mom.
Well, you meet her very briefly, remember, because Harry and Hagrid crash into their yard at the beginning of Deathly Hallows.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
But, like, really briefly.
Yeah.
And Harry actually thinks she's Bellatrix at first.
Oh, yeah, that sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really interesting.
That's an interesting... Because there you've got one sister who's been totally cut out of the family.
Yeah. And then, like, Narcissa and Bellatrix theoretically still like each other.
Yeah, they seem to get along fine. But they've got... There you see it's this sort of a different thing, you know, devotion to a cause.
Yeah.
And their level of fanaticism is way different. You know, Bellatrix is insane. Like, she's so devoted. And Narcissa is devoted only to the extent that it benefits her.
Yeah.
You know, and you see, you know, Harry Potter is very much a story about, you know, love and family too. And you see with Narcissa, you know, I mean, she's willing to do anything to get her son back in the end. Like, Harry's not dead, and that's fine. She does not care. You know, anything to get into the castle and to get back her son.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I forgot about the third one, but yeah, Andromeda, who's been totally cut out of the family because
that's cool because it is like they're kind of different. It's kind of 3 levels of like Bellatrix is super devoted to this. Narcissa, I mean, she definitely was like devoted to the cause, but then eventually realized like I don't really care about that. I just care about my family.
Yeah.
And then Andromeda does not care about it at all and cares about her family. Yeah. Because, I mean, she left them to create her own family that mattered more to her.
Yes. Which is something, so that's getting back to Frozen. This just made me think of, you know, one of the things I like in Frozen is, and I say this as a married woman, that, you know, Anna, I mean, she chooses Elsa over herself, but she sort of like chooses Elsa over like Kristoff. Like, she realizes that, oh, Kristoff is the right man, not Hans.
Yeah.
And to try to save herself, she's like, oh, well, maybe I should go Kristoff because, like, why not? But in the end, it's the sister relationship that is more important.
Well, here's something that I guess I've never really consciously thought about. Hans's whole thing is that he's the youngest brother.
Yeah.
And isn't going to get the throne because he has so many other brothers.
Yeah.
And they're all kind of mean to him. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, if you know, it's the opposite of Anna and Elsa. You don't get to see any of Hans's brothers, and you don't really get to see that relationship. But it's just like, well, Hans developed this hatred for his family and decided to go kill some people.
Mm-hmm. And Anna have that whole discussion about, like, being ignored by their older siblings. And yes, he took it to, I should go take over a kingdom. And all Anna wants at the end of the day is Elsa to just pay attention to her.
Yeah.
And even in many ways, even though, you know, you see Elsa continues to push Anna away, and even when she pushes her away and freezes her heart and everything, Anna's still willing to sacrifice herself for Elsa because Elsa's her sister, and, you know, she loves her more than anything, even though Elsa has continually, you know, shut the door and stuff.
Yeah.
I love you, Shannon.
You're okay.
Thanks. That was nice.
Yeah.
It's a nice moment.
I also had a pop quiz segment. Did we want to quiz the listeners? Since we both know about everything we talked about. Because in the future, we might have topics that the other one doesn't know a lot about.
That seems unlikely, but possible.
But, you know, sometimes I want to talk about something and you haven't seen it, so that's what we're going to talk about.
That's true.
Whether you like it or not.
I need you to catch up on Once Upon a Time.
I know, yeah.
Please
Can't talk about that if I haven't seen it. Because...
I know, because I need you to have seen it.
Yeah.
I have so many feelings, Shannon.
Do we want to quiz the listeners? Because I did write this down as a segment.
Or do we want to just ask the listeners...
a question.
What are a pair of siblings in movies or TV or books that they relate to.
Yeah. So what's a pair of siblings in movies, TVs, or book that you relate to? Even if you don't have a sibling.
What's something that you're like, man, I want to have that relationship?
Yeah. Because you could have a friendship that's kind of like siblings, or,
True.
you could relate to someone in the siblings. Shall we wrap up? That was the first episode of Pop Culture Pie.
Yeah.
We had such delicious pie. Pie of sisterhood. Yum.
Yum. Shannon, how can people contact us?
That's such a good question. You can follow us on Twitter at popculturepie, on Tumblr, popculturepie.tumblr.com. I made a Facebook page. I don't think it has the URL Pop Culture Pie yet, but you can search for us. If you want to send us an email, popculturepiecast@gmail.com. And these pages aren't like beautiful yet. Just, I don't know if they will be by the time this episode comes out. So just, be prepared for like an egg on Twitter, It's not the height of social media yet.
And cut us some slack, because I'm making Shannon do all the work.
Yeah, I am doing all the work. Speaking of doing the work, you can donate to us on Patreon, and then it'll be easier to do the work. This Patreon is patreon.com/RSC, as in Remarkable Singular Curious. It was, until today, day of recording, just my personal Patreon that I had used for web series, and then I had like turned it off, and then recently turned it back on. We have 2 patrons right now. Thank you, Jeffrey Mandel and Carrie, who just started. And I texted her and I was like, Carrie, oh my God, thank you.
Jeffrey Mandel is the best.
Oh yeah, thanks, Jeff. I don't know if he'll listen to this, but if you listen, Jeff, you're awesome. He's been in every web series I've made. But yeah, so if you donate to us on Patreon, then the main thing that I want to be able to do is put these on iTunes. And so once we're like making enough money to have like a Libsyn account and like have an RSS feed, then I'll be able to submit this to iTunes and it'll be a lot easier to listen to, because you gotta pay to like have a Libsyn account. And also, Sissy just bought the microphone that she's using, so I could pay her back for that microphone.
That would be cool.
Yeah, my microphone Mom and Dad bought me for Christmas like a year ago, so I'm good. Well, I think that's everything I have to say. So, I was gonna say, so if you donate to us on Patreon, like what you get, we'll like say in an episode. We just said Jeff and Carrie. We'll mention your name. That's for $1 up. If it's $5 or up, I'll like post kind of bloopers behind the scenes. So probably we just went on like 5-10 minutes where we just talked about our lives. I might cut that out and just upload that on Patreon instead.
Yeah, I would suggest cutting that out. That's probably not that interesting.
And then if it's $10 or more, you'll get sneak peeks of upcoming projects. I'm not sure exactly what that'll be yet, because this is also not just for the podcast, but for web series that we might make in the future. So I don't know, maybe I'll say like what the next episode's topic is. Obviously not until we've recorded the episode and we both know what it is. But if like I'm making a web series too, I'll give you sneak peeks of that. Yeah, so donate to us.
So Shannon, I thought we could sign off with a random fact about us.
Okay, what's a random fact about us?
Shannon and I are both Ravenclaws, and we are both Wampuses.
I'm Shannon.
And I'm Colleen.
Thank you for listening.
Bye!
Bye!